I stood there in the check-in line at Denver International, holding my duffel bag and trying not to shake. This trip was supposed to be a small vacation, a quiet break I hadn't had in years. I'd saved for it myself, booked it secretly, didn't even tell my family because I knew how it would go. But somehow these still found out. And sure enough, everything blew up the moment I got to the airport. I handed my passport and ticket to the woman at the desk. She frowned, scanned again, then tilted her head. "I'm sorry, Miss Reyes," she said. "This ticket was canceled an hour ago." "What?" I blinked. "That's not possible." She turned her screen toward me. "Canceled online, refunded to a card ending in 4401. My stomach dropped. I knew that card number. It belonged to my mother. I staggered away from the counter and fumbled for my phone. I hadn't told them about the flight, but a week ago my mom called, snooping, as always. I let it slip. I'd be out of town for a few days. "Just a little breather," I had said. "Don't worry about it." I should have known that was enough for her to dig into my plans and ruin them. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments, from where are you watching this video? As soon as I pulled out my phone, a text popped up. "Mom, have fun walking home, loser." I stared at it, frozen in place. My mom, the woman who raised me, canceled my ticket, a flight I bought with my own money, just to punish me for trying to leave quietly? And that message, it wasn't even hidden behind sarcasm, just cruelty. Cruelty she didn't even try to sugarcoat anymore. Behind the bench near the terminal's window, a little boy in a Spider-Man hoodie tripped and his mom caught him mid-fall. I looked away fast. Watching even that tiny moment of affection made something inside me ache. I walked to the airport bathroom, locked myself in the stall, sat down on the toilet lid, and cried. Not because of the ruined trip, but because of the years it took to admit this wasn't just strict parenting or tough love. My parents didn't love me. Not really. At least not the way they loved my sister, Leah. Leah had always been the golden one, the one with the dance recital, the car at 16, the hand-me-down free wardrobe. She didn't even finish college, but they still bought her a 3-bedroom condo and paid for her wedding. Me? I got character-building lectures and secondhand shoes from church giveaways. I wiped my eyes and walked back out, still stunned. Another message buzzed in. "Dad, don't be dramatic, Eliza. You can crash at Leah's if you're so desperate." Crash at Leah's? The same woman who once kicked me out in the middle of a snowstorm because her boyfriend didn't like extra people around? The same sister who said I was just born to be a support character? I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the rideshare app. I was still standing in the pickup lane, figuring out if I even had enough money to get back across town when a small white car pulled up. It wasn't mine, but the driver leaned out and said, "You all right? You look like you just got hit by a truck." I gave a small laugh. "Close. A text." He smiled kindly. "Rough family?" I nodded. "You could say that. Hop in. I'm off shift, but I'll get you wherever you need to go." I hesitated for a second, but something about the man, older, gentle eyes, worn hands, felt like a kindness I hadn't been offered in years. I climbed in. "Where to?" he asked. I almost said home, but I paused. "Nowhere. Just, can we drive for a bit?" He didn't question it. He just drove. For the first time in years, I let myself talk. Not just small talk, real talk, about my parents, about Leah, about how every small victory of mine had been stolen, sabotaged, or mocked. The man, who eventually told me his name was Harvey, didn't say much. He just nodded, listened. After 30 minutes, he pulled into a park and said, "You know, I have a daughter. Reminds me of you. Stronger than she thinks." I smiled at that. "She lucky to have you." He laughed a little sad. "She ran away to New York 5 years ago. I haven't heard from her since."
I keep hoping she's okay. I looked at him. I think she's probably better than okay. We sat in silence for a few minutes before I pulled out my phone again. This time, I didn't cry. I logged into a folder I hadn't touched in months. It was labeled Options. Inside were the documents from a life I'd been slowly building secretly. Years ago, when I was in college, I took a financial planning course just to fill credits, but I fell in love with it. After that, I did odd jobs, worked double shifts, interned for free. Eventually, I learned enough to start investing. I didn't tell anyone, not even friends. I bought stock, then real estate, then more. My parents never noticed. They thought I was poor because I drove a 2007 Corolla and lived in a basement suite. But they didn't know about the portfolio under my name. They didn't know I owned the house they rented from. They didn't know that the nice landlord who let them skip 2 months of rent during Leah's wedding was me. They didn't know I was sitting on $78 million in assets. And they didn't know that their texts weren't destroying me. They were freeing me to finally respond. I turned to Harvey and smiled. I think I'm done being their daughter. He tilted his head. What do you mean? I looked out the window. I think I'm about to become their landlord. And with that, I sent the message that started it all. Me. Don't worry, Mom. I'll be home soon. The ride back to the suburbs felt different this time. Not because of the air or traffic, but because for once, I wasn't returning as their doormat. I was returning as something else entirely. As Harvey dropped me off near the corner, I thanked him. He patted the dash and smiled. You go be the storm, Eliza. I walked to the last block. Their house looked the same. Beige siding, overgrown lawn, Leah's white SUV in the driveway. It was the same house they used to scream at me in, the same house they kicked me out of 3 times before I turned 20. But now it was mine. I unlocked the mailbox first and pulled out a stack of envelopes, most of them addressed to Eliza Properties, LLC. The rent checks, all made out to me, including theirs. I walked up the path. I didn't knock. I walked in. My mother looked up from the couch and frowned. Why are you here? My father came out of the kitchen, chewing loudly on a sandwich. I thought we canceled your trip. Shouldn't you be sulking somewhere? Leah sat down at the kitchen island, filing her nails like a villain in a soap opera. Thought you'd be crying in the terminal by now. Guess the charity flight didn't fall through, huh? I just set my bag down slowly and pulled out a plain manila envelope. Dad squinted. What's that? Eviction notice, I said, placing one copy on the counter, one on the fridge, and one on the stairs. Mom scoffed. Excuse me? You're 3 months behind on rent under the agreement you signed with Eliza Properties, LLC. That's me. I'm terminating the lease. Dad's face turned a shade redder. You don't own this house. Oh? I tapped the deed. Purchased under a private trust 2 years ago. I let you stay out of pity. But the text you sent earlier, the one where you called me a loser, that's not a tenant I feel safe renting to anymore. They stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Leah sat down her file and laughed. You're joking. I'm not. I pulled out my phone and hit play on a voice memo. Let's cancel her flight. Teach her not to keep secrets. She's always been ungrateful, wants to go on vacation while we sit here struggling. Maybe she'll get stranded. Serves her right. Their voices caught on the cheap baby monitor I'd hidden in my duffel bag last week when I stopped by. I knew they'd snoop. I just wanted to hear what they'd say when they thought I was gone. Mom gasped. You spied on us? No, I said. I documented my property being occupied by emotionally abusive squatters. Dad growled. You can't do this. I raised an eyebrow. You sure? Because I already did. Behind me, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the tenant portal. $14,700 paid by Leah Baxter. Leah lunged over the counter.
You said the rent was delayed. Only if you hadn't laughed when I tripped down the stairs last Christmas, remember that, while I was holding your kids' gifts? Her jaw tightened. You know what else I remember? I continued stepping closer. Serving dinner to your kids while mine sat on the floor because he wasn't a real cousin. Don't twist this, Eliza. No, I'm just playing it back exactly how it happened. I walked up the stairs, the photos lining the wall, all of Leah, none of me. The frames bought with my money. I recognized the receipt from my old Amazon account they still logged into. In the guest room, once my childhood bedroom, I found a bin. My old sketchbooks, honors ribbons, college letters shoved into plastic. I took a photo. Then I carried the bin outside, poured it into the trash, and wheeled it to the curb. Leah was already on the phone, whisper screaming to her husband. Dad tried calling someone, maybe a lawyer. Didn't matter. I had a full legal trail. Receipts, audio, Lease violations, rent records, all clean, all handled months in advance. They just didn't know who I really was because I never let them see her until now. "I'll give you 3 days," I said quietly, standing by the door. "After that, I file with the sheriff." Mom looked pale. "We raised you." "No." I said, "You drained me and called it love," and I walked out. On the ride back to my condo, which overlooked a lake and had a concierge, I got another text. "Leah, you're evil." I smiled. "Me? No, I'm just finally done pretending I'm not." A week passed. 3 days came and went, and just as I promised, I filed the eviction notice with the sheriff's office. The deputy showed up on a Thursday morning with the paperwork in hand in a calm voice that offered no room for debate. My parents stood on the porch, stunned, furious, speechless. Leah wasn't there. She had already packed up and left the night before, dragging her designer suitcases out while swearing into her phone. Turns out her husband didn't know she drained their shared account to pay the rent. He knew now. As the movers cleared out the last of my parents' things, Mom turned to me, tears in her eyes, not from guilt, but from the realization that I wasn't bluffing. "Liza, we didn't mean to hurt you." I looked at her carefully done hair, the designer scarf she once called a gift, which I had bought for her on a maxed-out Poetic card at 22. "Yes, you did," I said. "You just never thought I'd matter enough to fight back." She reached for my hand. I didn't give it. Instead, I turned to the sheriff, handed him a sealed envelope, and said, "Make sure this stays with the house." It was a photo of me and my son, smiling, free. Underneath, I'd written one line. "This is what a family looks like, not what you built." I walked away from that porch without looking back to my life, my son, my business, the condo where my name was on every document because I earned it. Not out of spite, but out of proof. Proof that even after years of being made to feel like nothing, I could become everything they never imagined and never again needed. And somewhere, as the door closed behind them forever, I knew they would never laugh at my son again, not unless they wanted to beg for a plate. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.